Yeah, I know I'm a bit of a sado. Recording my second video of the international break, and it's not even Tuesday yet. But regardless, here are players to buy and avoid for game week 29. Without further ado, we'll get straight into it. Starting things off with James Maddison. Now, I know a number of people might already have him in their teams, but I still think he's a great option to consider buying for game week 29. I know one of the reasons you probably would have brought him in if you already own him is the fact he didn't blank in 28 and he's got this double in 29. You can compare him to Arsenal midfielders. Obviously, they did quite well, particularly Saka did quite well in 28. But comparing him to Arsenal midfielders who only have a single in 29, Maddison could well be a better option. For me, he's the Leicester talisman. He takes the free kicks, goal opportunities from those. He's got 9 goals, 6 assists from 20 starts in the Premier League so far this season. And for me, he's just a really exciting player to own and watch. And yeah, I don't know. Points from James Maddison feel like extra special points for me just because I really like him as a player. And he always feels, even when he's not a differential in FPL, he always feels like a bit of a rogue pick. So yeah, he's a really fun asset to watch and own in the game. I think this double, Palace away, who are in a bit of turmoil at the moment, I think. Not quite sure the reasons why they sacked Vieira. Obviously got absolutely thrashed by Arsenal. Don't appear to have another manager coming in. They're in a bit of a state at the moment, so I think Maddison could do some damage there. And then Villa at home, not saying Villa are the worst team in the world, but definitely fancy Leicester to score in that game. And just the fact that Maddison is so involved whenever Leicester score a goal, you'd expect him to get a return. He's a hold as well for 30. Bournemouth at home is another plum fixture. You'd want to start him for that one. And yeah, his underlying numbers are really good as well. They're definitely comparable with some of the Arsenal midfielders. So expected goals per 90 sits at 0.23 with 0.34 expected assists, 0.57 total expected returns per 90. Yeah, he's a really nice option, really fun player to own, and definitely one I think you should consider buying. Now, it feels very, very strange compared to previous years, but I'm actually calling Mo Salah a differential at the moment. When you look at his ownership, it's 25% overall, but a lot of those are probably going to be dead teams from the start of the season. And you delve into the top 10k, and at the moment he's only 6.5% owned. And yeah, at face value, you'd think game week 29, he's got Man City and Chelsea, 2 of the best teams in the league. How is he going to score in those fixtures? But then you look in a bit more detail, and against Man City in particular, he's got a great record against them. And the Man City-Liverpool fixture always seems to be quite high scoring as well. It's never a dull 0-0. It's usually a bit of a goal fest, and he's got 15 returns in 18 games versus Man City playing for Liverpool, which is a really nice record. And yeah, that Chelsea defence in general, he doesn't have the best record against Chelsea, but I think the Chelsea we're seeing this season are very different to ones of the past, like the Tuchel 3 at the back Chelsea being very resolute. That's sort of gone by the wayside now, and they definitely are conceding more goals. So you could quite easily see him getting a return in both of those games, in my opinion. And yeah, just in general, I've got a feeling that he's coming back into form. He's got 3 goals, 2 assists in his last 4 games. And his underlying numbers are still really, really good. 0.7 expected returns per 90. 0.5 of that being expected goals and 0.2 being expected assists. I think Mo Salah is playing almost as good as he has been in previous seasons, really. I think it's just the way that Liverpool are setting up at the moment, probably the fact they've got a weak midfield and now have a proper centre-forward in Darwin Núñez. His role has changed a little bit, but I don't think he's retracted as a player. I just don't think Liverpool have been playing as well around him. So, yeah, I think he's a good option for game week 29, and considering his ownership probably around your rank is similar to that 6.5%, if you're still playing the game, it probably is, because not many people are going to have him. I think he's a great option and definitely someone you can consider if you want to be a bit different. Okay, next up, I've gone for Bruno Fernandes. I don't think this one's too surprising with Man United having a double game week in 29 and then a couple of nice fixtures afterwards. He's the Man United penalty taker, we all know that. And I think just in general, as a rule, I'm a United fan, but even I've spotted this. Man United tend to get a few more penalties than other teams. I think it's just the nature of their players and the way they play. They're just a bit more likely to get fouled in the box or just something happens in the box basically involving Man United. I do feel like he's come into better form since returning from the World Cup. I don't think he was playing too badly before, but probably playing a bit deeper. I think even with Casemiro being out, someone's going to come in and replace Casemiro. like McTominay or Fred or someone like that. And I still think Bruno Fernandes is going to be given freedom to go forward and attack. I think we certainly saw that against Fulham with his, he got a penalty goal and a goal towards the end of the game, so scored 2 goals in the Cup. And yeah, for me, I think he's a good option. And if he doesn't pan out, doesn't work out very well, I think at least for 29, you can have him over Saka. Then if you wanted to, you could straight swap him to Saka, Odegaard or Martinelli or someone like that from Arsenal if you don't fancy him. I think his expected numbers are they don't look amazing. They're certainly better than Maddison's. And I feel like if you were to take this from the World Cup onwards, he'd probably be around 0.8 expected returns per 90. But across the season, those are what his expected stats are looking like. But for me, I think looking at those fixtures in 29, Newcastle away is obviously a tough one, but I do feel like Man United can win that game. And then Brentford at home is one I expect them to score in. Likewise with Everton in Nottingham Forest. I think there are goals for United in all of those games, and I think Bruno Fernandes is going to be part of it. The next player, similar really point to Salah, and it's Darwin Núñez. His underlying numbers are absolutely ridiculous. He's second only to Erling Haaland. He's got 1 expected return per every 90 minutes that he plays. I just think, in general, it's a general point really, regardless of the fixtures, he looks dangerous against every opponent that he faces. I mean, he must be an absolute nightmare to mark if you're a Premier League defender. Like, the guy can jump, he's big, he's strong, he's quick, he's skillful. Obviously, when he finds his shooting boots, he's a pretty good finisher as well. He's just an absolute nightmare for defences, and I'm not sure, the Man City, the Chelsea, or the Arsenal defenders can really live with him. He seems to get chances in every game against anyone, so I really do think, regardless of the opposition, he can do well. And looking at that double in 29, as I said, with Salah, they're usually high-scoring games, particularly the City one. Chelsea one might be a bit closer, but even still, I can see him scoring in that one. He offers a bit of a different option to someone like Ollie Watkins or Ivan Toney. I think the two of those are going to be really popular, but you could hedge against them with someone like Darwin Núñez, trying to be a bit different and gain some rank. And I think there's no better player to do it given the expected returns per 90 stat that he's got. So Darwin Núñez is looking like a great option across the season, and I think is a great option for Game Week 29 as well. Final player that I'm recommending in this video is Alexander Isak from Newcastle. He's been absolutely mega of recent, and just looking at his price, 6.7 million, for the upside he provides playing for a decent team in Newcastle, chasing the top 4, seems to be at the moment their first choice striker. I think it's great value. Obviously, Newcastle have another striker that's very good in Callum Wilson, but this guy's starting ahead of Wilson at the moment, and just looking across their careers, it's quite obvious to say that he has a better injury record than Callum Wilson. He's got some fantastic underlying numbers as well. You look at those expected returns per 90, 0.88. It's third to Darwin Núñez and Erling Haaland in terms of strikers that actually play reasonably regular football in the Premier League. So yeah, he's looking like a really good option. And Newcastle as well have a possible additional double in 31. So he's even more, one to add to your watch list with that double in mind. I don't think it's going to be confirmed before the international break, but it's definitely, a string to his bow in terms of an asset. I just think he looks really good. And I remember watching him on an interview that he did with Sky after the goals that he scored against Forest. He had a very high opinion of himself, saying, "Oh, my goal was good" and stuff like that. I just really liked him, and I thought he had the mentality of an absolute top striker. So yeah, it remains to be seen how that pans out for the rest of the season. But I do think he's a player I'm definitely interested in, and one that I would recommend to you as well. On to, unfortunately, a bit more of a negative swing on this one. And I'm sort of repeating myself from the last video, but I'm only doing so because the opinion still stands. I don't really fancy the Man City defence at the moment. Not being able to back any one of those lot really to play all of the games, not necessarily keeping clean sheets. They feel like they're hitting their form going forward, but I still feel like they can be quite leaky and concede goals. You can't trust what Pep says in press conferences about his players. You could say that Nathan Ake is one of the most important players in his team and he really loves him, and then he still drops him at the weekend straight after. For me, it's just not worth the hassle picking any of these guys. FPL is meant to be fun, and I think just having the unknown as to whether your Man City defender you've picked is going to start, it's just not worth it. They've got Liverpool in 29 when other teams have a double, so I think for me it's quite easy. Go for a Brighton defender, Man United defender, just anyone else really that plays a double but the Man City defence. Now, this might be a bit more controversial because I know quite a few people are probably doubled up on the Newcastle defence at the moment for me, but just not seeing it in them. I've actually got Botman in my team, and I'm really considering getting rid of him this game week. They've not kept a clean sheet in 8 games in all competitions. Don't think there's anything wrong with Trippier as an asset. That's why I've not included him in this bunch here, just because he's obviously has the upside of attacking returns. He's on all the set pieces. He's also a really good free kick taker, so he can quite easily score from them. And yeah, bonus points potential as well, just for the sheer amount of balls that he puts into the box and the involvement he gets in both ends of the pitch. He's a really good player for bonus points. But Botman, Burn and Shah, you're really needing clean sheets from Newcastle to score any points from them. And given they've not kept one in 8 games, the points aren't really coming for them. And I've just noticed Nick Pope seems a bit dodgy at the moment. Obviously, he's sending off in games where handballing the ball outside the box and stuff like that. He just seems to have lost his head a little bit. Maybe the international break will be good for him, but he does seem to be picking up, the odd error pretty much, nearly every game at the moment. So that's not helping Newcastle either, in my opinion. Remains to be seen if this turns out to be true, but based on the data we've got, certainly over the last 8 games with them not keeping a clean sheet, I'm not really fancying the Newcastle defenders at the moment. And that concludes the video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please leave me a like rating and subscribe to the Golden Goal channel. I'm going to keep cracking out FPL content to keep you guys ticking over during the international break. I'll have another wildcard draft coming out soon because I've already made some changes to the one that I made just a couple of days ago. So stick around to the channel for that, and I'll see you in the next video.